Hi, I'm Mattlin from FBTWGaming, and during the last stress test weekend, a lot of people came to me on my channel and said, "Hey, I don't understand how to play Gigantic, and it isn't fun like that." And I was like, "What?" Oh my god, did I make a Tim Allen reference? He hasn't been relevant in like 10 years. You know what, forget it. Don't even go that way. But I was confused because, I've been playing so long that it's kind of gotten second nature. But Gigantic is a very thorough and unique game. So, I've decided to create a little segment called Just the Gigantic Tips. Ha! Get back with that Archer reference. Most MOBAs have a perfect map in the beginning of a match. You have all your towers, your cores at full health, and will slowly get degraded. Gigantic's the exact opposite. You have no towers until you summon them. AKA, you have to summon your creatures. Yes, go to these points and summon your creatures before you do anything else.
If you don't summon your creatures, you can't win any team fights!
All creatures provide some very unique benefits. Number one, if you fight near your creature, they engage in the fight. It's like having a 6 team member with CCs, knockbacks, you name it, they probably got it. Number two, if there's no enemy nearby, they have a deflection shield. Stand behind it and you can't get sniped. Imani, go F off. And lastly, and most importantly, they collect orbs. What the heck are orbs? Well, orbs give you power. What's power? Relax, young grasshopper. Wait until I get to that section. Now, all creatures also have a unique benefit. They can act like a tower in another game. They can give you sight, like a ward. You see where I'm going here? They can act like a health pot. And finally, they can create walls. There's no real analogy for another game, but they can funnel your opponents to certain areas and make your life 10 times easier, and provide a nice escape. On every map, there are some neutral points. These take longer to summon a creature on. They also are usually pretty far away and hard to defend, or at least harder. So, you better have a full team or at least a plan when summoning there. So don't keep summoning on D, because your creatures are just going to die and you're going to give power to the other team. Hey, there's that concept again. Power. I think it's time to talk about it. Look at the top of your screen. Over on the left-hand side is your Guardian's health on the top, which will come in a green bar, and at the bottom there's a golden bar. This is power. Every time you get a kill, hero a creature, or gain an orb, you get power. Orbs are worth double. Keep that in mind. When you get 100% power, your Guardian rampages, or pushes. During a push or rampage, your Guardian flies across the map, backhands the other Guardian, and sits on its chest, leaving it open for attack. This is the only time you can wound the Guardian. Wounding the Guardian wins you the game. Now, if your opponent had any power, this is converted to a shield. The shield is taken off before damage is done to its health bar. The push only lasts a certain amount of time, during which you have to do enough damage to cause a wound. The enemy's health bar is split up into 3 sections, or wounds, and much like Samus's energy tanks, once one is depleted, you move on to the next. But you can only do a single wound's worth of damage during any single push. If you don't completely deplete that wound in one push, it carries over to the next push, which might mean you have to do more than 3 pushes to win a game. So that means it's very important to always try to get a full wound on every single push. I think this is probably one of the least done things in new players. They don't go for it. Just do it! Get the wound! You can do it! Just do it! Okay, that's mostly true. If your team, however, is not committing for the wound, don't go running in ahead of everybody. That is to say, don't fire one in at a time, because if you die during the push, the enemy Guardian will get extra shielding, making it more difficult for your friends coming in later to do a wound. Go in all as one. An important thing to note is the Guardian does damage during his push, which means you can fail to secure a wound, and during the next push, the Guardian does enough damage to simply cause a wound. Except for on the last wound, you're going to have to at least tap it once. This is called an auto wound. If you're going to have an auto wound, you don't have to go running to the Guardian, because the Guardian's going to get up and start shooting its chicken lasers at you, and that's just bad news for everybody. When a Guardian reaches 1 wound, or you get enough pushes from both sides, the game transitions to the Clash. This is the high-octane finish of Gigantic. The seas part, water recedes, the sky opens up, and everything changes. Quite literally on some maps, Sanctum Falls, as well as Siren Strands, all the creatures are going to shift to a new location that just opened up. A good team can rotate quickly and probably take advantage of this change to get a creature kill. What happens on Canyon, you ask? On the 2 forward points, the lower walls drop down. You get an open concept design, and makes it harder to defend that point. During Clash, you can summon and upgrade creatures quicker as well. Wait a second, what the hell is upgrading a creature? We haven't talked about that, right? That's because we have to talk about focus. In between all of your other talents is the portrait of your hero. On top of that is a little yellow bar that will fill up when you do anything. Heal, kills, damage, you name it, probably will fill it a little bit. When it gets to a complete fill, you're going to get a focus point. These points can be used either to launch your ultimate ability. Who the hell does that? Don't do that! No, I'm joking. A lot of abilities are really good to use, but you can also take a certain number of those points and walk over to a baby creature and upgrade it into an adult creature. Adult creatures gather orbs quicker. Ah, that means if you have an adult creature on a point and your enemy only has a baby, you're tied in power, you're going to get the push first. Yes, I'm smacking my hand. I just want you to upgrade your creatures. Upgraded creatures do more damage, have unique abilities. Just do it! Upgrade your points! When you summon or upgrade a creature, it forms a green ring. Any heroes that stand inside of it change the duration of time it takes to summon that creature. So if you're trying to take a tough point or upgrading to an adult creature, you usually want to stack in it to get it up as fast as possible. But a cheeky SOB assassin can go into the back field, find a creature that isn't fully summoned, jump into that ring, and make it so the creature is never summoned, allowing you to get a free creature kill, free power, and just be cancer in general. Always be aware of your power. If you're ahead in power, and you have an equal number of creatures summoned, you're going to get the push. End of discussion, unless you and your team start dying. So, if you're ahead, sit on your creatures, let the opponents come to you, because they're going to have to make a move or lose a wound. While you can't summon on enemy points, you can collect enemy orbs. A really good player can push a creature off the point, not only delaying the orbs, but sometimes they can actually take the orb while the creature is distracted. And if a creature is taking an orb, you can always interrupt or do damage to it, which will stop its gathering. If you're in a close power race, this can mean the difference between a push and getting pushed. Using your ultimate ability will use all of your focus charges, completely, every single time. And while the ultimate is usually upgraded in some way, you might want to think about upgrading a creature before you use your ult if you have a lot of charges. And remember, you can only have 3 charges at any given time. And to wrap us all up with a final gigantic tip of the day, when you're trying to figure out what character to play during the matchmaking, think about this. Unless you're RNG, the best competitive player on the scene so far, you want to probably have 2 melee, 2 ranged, and 1 support. So, since we're sitting here and I'm on trip and we look like we could use some support, I'll switch to Sven. It's got a little bit of range and it will kind of even things out here. Okay, I guess our other ranged guy wanted to be Trip and... No. How the hell did you do that? No. Why is everybody Trip? Nope. Screw it. I'm done. I don't even know what's happening. God damn it.